Hi there. It's actually Kira.
Okay, Kira.
I'm calling with a question regarding worship music. As far as, for Christians, when we listen to worship music or we're recommending it to others, where we draw the line with discernment on, like, the bands or, the churches that the music itself is coming out of, just so we can kind of, make sure we're not recommending.
Author is, what music publishers put that out. And so that's why, at least in the modern era, if a church is keeping the rules the way they're supposed to, there's going to be some credit given to a song. And most people, if they're looking at screens, for instance, they're going to see who wrote it and what music publishing company puts it out. Or in a hymnal, think about that. You got the author at the top of the page, and you certainly have a publisher at the front of the hymn book. Now, that is why this issue comes up, because someone's going to say, well, do you know who publishes that song? Or do you know who wrote that hymn? Or do you know where that hymn book, originated, what church or denomination it came from? And once you have that knowledge of connection to something, you say, oh, that's heretical. Those people don't believe in the deity of Christ. Or that group is so far out there, they're trying to, suck souls out of graves in Central California. If that becomes part of your thinking, then there's no doubt that that's ruined for you if you know that. And if it's ruined for you if you know that, and you're a worship leader and thinking, how many of my people know this connection or might know this connection, well, then I think you're going to have to make a decision as a worship leader, say, I'm not going to put these songs up there because people's minds are going to go to this connection, and maybe this is going to open a door for them going to these churches or thinking that we endorse these churches and therefore we shouldn't do it. Now, here's the problem. It's really based on knowledge. It's like that whole problem in 1 Corinthians where Paul's talking about meat sacrificed to idols, ceremonially sacrificed to idols, and now it's sold in the marketplace. Well, if you didn't know it, well, then it doesn't matter, right? But once you know it and your conscience is violated, well, now it matters. And that's the thing. I could go through the hymn book because of knowledge and just having studied these things. I can show you a lot of these people that became full-blown heretics, or maybe some of them actually were heretics when they wrote the hymn. And yet they were catchy hymns and they caught on and people loved them. They were put in evangelical hymn books. And now all of a sudden, if you sing it and you don't know it, nobody cares. But once you know it, now you might care. And the problem with some people today is they love spreading the news of guilt by association, and they're saying this is a bad hymn because of who wrote it. Now, here's the question that some people have. What does it matter who wrote it if the lyrics themselves are good? Right? And that really is the debate in churches. Some people are going to say, I don't care who published it. I don't care who wrote it. The lyrics are orthodox. They're good. They're biblical. And I can worship to it. And then other people are going to say, yeah, but I know the associations. And therefore well, they wouldn't put it this way. But what they're really saying is my conscience is violated. I don't want to support that. I don't want to give money to that. I don't want to be singing that. I don't want to see that music publisher on the screen in our church. So in the end, it won't take many who have knowledge to basically say, yeah, that's going to put it on the no playlist at church. And that just has to happen. And it happens at our church. And that, at the beginning, we sang songs. Everybody was singing them. But then it's like, oh, who published this? Oh, what are those people? People are learning about that. As soon as I have 10 or 15 or 20% of the people who are aware of this, surely out of that 20%, probably 5% are massively offended by it. And then all of a sudden, the worship wars continue, not with the volume or the beat, but now it's who published it. And frankly, we just have to get rid of those songs in our playlist and say we're not going to sing them because I don't want anybody to stumble over this. I want them to focus on the Lord. They can't focus on the Lord and the lyrics. They're focusing on the publisher. So in that sense, I do think it's wise for leaders to curtail their singing of songs from people that you're either heretics or a part of organizations that obviously are not orthodox. And that's very relevant. I know what you're talking about. I probably know the groups you're talking about. And I would say it's wise for people to just cut that. But here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to go through my hymnal and try and find out every heretic that wrote a hymn. There are a lot of hymn writers, not a lot. There are a few hymn writers that after they wrote those hymns, they became apostate. Right? There are some that claim to be Christ later in their lives. Okay, well, I don't want to ruin the hymn book for you, so I don't even think that's information I want to spread. I don't even want to get it out there because they're hymns that you've loved and you worship to. So I don't want the guy, and it's the kid in school you can always think of, always wants to ruin things for everybody. There are people in church like that, and I don't like that. I don't like those kind of people. I don't like the way they do that. And I'd say don't become one of those people, but yes, you probably should give up on songs that are going to be associated with groups that are bad. But let's not become researchers on every single page of every hymnal or every song that's ever
Well,
sung.
and it's not so much researchers on, especially like for hymnals, because I figure most of those, the artists are passed away. There's not like a publication company that's like making money off of that anymore. I'm thinking more so like, where do we draw the line for like current, music that's coming out of some of these heretic churches? Okay, we're not going to sing their music, but then what if they're writing songs and then we're singing the songs by a different artist, but it's like they're still given the written credit. It just makes me nervous to then like, well, but I don't want to like recommend that song to somebody because maybe when they go to YouTube to pull up, this current song, it will direct them to that other, bad heretic, church band, whatever it may be.
I would be careful not to go down that road. And I would say what Paul says, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. I'm sitting here in front of a camera with a microphone that's made in Germany. I have no idea what the background is. Maybe this was Hitler's favorite company. At some point I'm going to say, I'm going to use my microphone for the glory of God. I'm going to sing songs for the glory of God. And yes, I will curtail the list of songs I sing if it's causing people to stumble, but I'm not going to sit here and say, well, 25 cents went to this artist today. Well, I'm using a computer, and I know that the money I spent on this computer is going to an organization that hates just about everything I stand for as it relates to social issues, but it doesn't matter. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. If I can buy the same computer from a bunch of pastors that make it, well then sure, great. But that's not the world we live in. And Paul was clear. You want to go through the meat market and buy your meat, just buy it without asking questions, right? And that, I think, is a good way for us to go about our lives in most things. But I can't do that when people start having that association in their mind and it violates their conscience. But I'm not going to worry about a few dollars going to a group of publishers or a few people. I read newspapers. I read books. I got books all over my office right now, and a bunch of them are put out by people that are making money and they hate God. And yet those books are helpful for me to get my mind up to speed on a lot of things so that I can do work for the glory of God. My life needs to be directed to the glory of God. I'm going to consume a lot of things. I'm going to eat at restaurants that are run by atheists or Buddhists or who knows what. But I'm going to do what Paul did, and that is I'm just going to do this and eat or drink to the glory of God myself. And I can't worry so much about boycotting every single store or every single song that's got some association or making someone rich that's not a good person. I just don't think that's the right way to go about life, and I think I have biblical precedent to live that way. Does that help?
Yeah. Yes.
So
super helpful. Super helpful in the fact of like can't control it all, right? We're here.
Right.
Make the best of it while we can.
Yeah, we're going to use the world. Yeah, we're going to use the world, and a lot of the stuff we use is going to enrich a lot of people. Think about it. Most of the rich people we know of in our culture, right? We don't want to hire them to lead our Bible studies, and yet we're using things every day that make them rich. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And I remember the whole Target thing, and I get that. And for a while, I had a hard time walking into Target for my own conscience sake. Well, whatever, great. I didn't go to Target, but I didn't campaign about it. And I thought I can go to Walmart or whatever. If there are options, take them. And if it helps your conscience, great. But we gotta live in this world, and we're going to be separate in our churches in the sense that we're going to do things for the glory of God there. I can't come out of the world, as Paul says in 1 Corinthians 6. I'm going to be in this world, and I'm going to have to function in it and buy food and buy computers from places that are not God-honoring. I hope that helps. That's a great question and very, very practical.